So I've seen a lot of content creators and also people who believe themselves hardcore. What is the word I want to use without offending anybody? But hardcore, like anti-government people. And this whole concept of canceling people, right? We're all boycotting as much as we can. But there comes a limitation because essentially there's a lot of services that smaller companies do not offer for individuals who are using SNAP benefits or who need delivery services for food. We're seeing more of it. Like now, Instacart is accepting SNAP. However, for the past year, I've been struggling with that because going to the grocery store isn't always easy. And ordering from Amazon or Walmart is also, because I'm trying to boycott them. However, keep in mind that during these times, Walmart is one of the only people giving disabled people jobs. Amazon, despite it not giving livable wages, right now, when they're trying to make it a requirement for you to have at least minimum a couple hours of employment so that you can keep your medical benefits through the government, it's all un plan con maña to force people back into these employments that they no longer wanted to do because they were fighting for fair wages, because they were protesting for fair wages. And some people are going to be able to continue protesting these things. They're going to continue to be able to afford it. And I don't mean financially afford it because many of us are living in our cars for our beliefs. However, I don't mean financially afford it. I mean afford it health wise because our health is starting to suffer. That's why I told you guys at the beginning of all of these boycotts. If your health is not well, then you're no longer doing a protesting service. You are now becoming a martyr for what you believe. No martyrs are going to save these movements or are going to create the right vibration to stop everything that's happening and balance the world out. Martyrism is no longer what we're looking for. However, some martyrism has opened people's eyes, like Luigi. I'm not saying go fucking do that because essentially it didn't change anything. United Healthcare and other health insurances are still delaying by months, even years, diagnoses and care, and they're still denying care to be able to try to prescribe more medications. A lot of us are still experiencing this. So essentially, if you're in that capacity, do not allow people with their belief systems to try to make you feel like you're doing less. Because I had a friend make me feel like shit this weekend because I asked them to go get me a Frappuccino. Mind you, I was paying them to be my assistant. They're like, oh, this weekend is all about you. Okay, cool. If you're an employee, yeah. But because of your beliefs, you didn't follow that order. I sent them to a Starbucks that I know helps people like myself because they've let me brush my teeth there many times. Something McDonald's didn't allow, something the majority of the coffee shops on the main street of that town does not do because they are discriminative over homeless people. So just keep that in mind. That Starbucks as a corporation sucks. So yes, go after Starbucks. The labor union did great. They went after the delivery and all the distribution centers. They didn't go after the people who fucking put their money together and bought a franchise. Because essentially some of these franchises were bought by smaller community-based groups trying to keep their groups funded. And it's very frustrating to me to see that you somehow feel like you're better than somebody else because now even your health is suffering because of idealism. Idealism is great. It's what changes the world. But if you don't make sure that the community is well, and we've discussed this, so many people who are actually involved in activism have tried to tell you guys, do it the way the Black Panthers did. Make sure that there's already a community resource available before you try to dismantle the other community resource. Y'all keep trying to dismantle shit without offering. There's still no places, clean bathrooms for people to use because some homeless people destroy them. So they close them down for all of us. But before, that was a requirement of towns. They had to have public bathrooms where people could shower or even use the restroom in case of whatever, because going all the way to your house if something happens while you're out and about is more difficult. And a lot of gas stations cater to truck drivers where they can buy a card, or they give them a card if they're loyal customers for their gas, to be able to shower and rest in certain facilities. That's a great way to do it. You know, some YMCAs are doing that for homeless programs, something we don't see widely. So I really encourage you guys to start thinking about your activism as a whole, because you guys are sitting here judging people for their choices they make. But while I was boycotting Starbucks, the entire time I was boycotting Starbucks, I was rejected from multiple small businesses because I look like a homeless person. Not because I smelled, not because I was stealing, not because I was mistreating anybody or being unkind to anybody. I was mistreated, and it is discrimination, but more than anything, it fucks with my ability to be around you people, because you're talking about this new society that you want to create while still rejecting the people who need you the most. While still rejecting. And I love all these. And I already, like, I even wrote a little song, not wrote, but sang a little song this morning when I saw that some of the ripples are starting to touch. So I was also discussing about this weekend, that we have all these different people who are placed all over the world who are doing the work, and they're starting to ripple. And eventually those ripples will start to touch each other, and we'll start to see this in our communities, where we're starting to reach all these conscious communities, and they clash a little bit when they hit each other, because they notice, hey, yes, we are totally accommodating here, but we're not here, we're not being inclusive here. So true inclusivity and accommodation happens when everybody within that community is being served. The moment anyone in that community is not being served, it it allows for separation and distrust. So essentially, a lot of what we're doing today of boycotting the larger companies is great. Like I said, if you can do it, do it. But stop judging people who are no longer able to do it, because we sustained it as long as as long as I could, with my insurances and stuff like that, that finally I had to say fuck Kaiser, and I got to get the fuck out of here. I already opened the eyes of the public, showing them what Kaiser is doing. If they don't want to see it, cool. I'm done, because my health is suffering because of all the delays and denials in my care that are still happening today, because the transfer to a new insurance takes time, but also the transfer of information and doctors not believing your health records and wanting to redo all the tests and prolonging your suffering for no goddamn reason. All that still happens with new health insurances, especially if you have Medi-Cal and Medicare. So just keep that in mind, because essentially, even when I had private insurance, I was that hypocritical bitch. I was the one who didn't understand why my sister was getting different care than I was, why she was being gaslit while I was getting the care that I needed. And everything was covered through a program that Kaiser has, as long as I got all the treatments and experimental shit from them. But not for maintenance care. Oh, no, 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 no. They don't offer all that shit for maintenance care. No, no, no. They slowly start taking away your acupunctures. They stop approving your acupuncture. They stop approving this. They stop approving that, trying to force you back into medical treatments and procedures that they believe are the ones that will work, even though they have harmed you in the past. So just keep that in mind, because Kaiser's not the only one that does that. And a lot of us who are activists and even advocating for ourselves and others and advocating for change, we're suffering the reality of that choice. Because yes, as I said in my other video, because I was really pissed off at my therapist, he made it about politics, not me, because the same doctor that I've asked for the migraine medication, that same doctor is the same doctor that I first requested the replacement of my scooter. It's been almost 6 months, and neither the scooter nor my migraines are being treated. My physical pain isn't being treated. So if I'm going to keep having to pay for THC to treat and CBD, because I get my CBD medicines made for me, if I'm going to have to keep paying for it, why the fuck do these medical insurances exist? Why are we still paying into the Medi-Cal system if our health is not being... Why are they forcing us to get a job before they pay for our medical shit when they were the ones who worked us until we were sick and now don't even want to pay for the care that we need to be able to go back to those employments? And a lot of us are not saying we don't want to go back to those employments. We need these things to be accommodated, especially if they're not going to be treated. If you're not going to treat our conditions, then you need to accommodate them. Legally, you need to accommodate them. That's ADA law. But because of all of this medical shit, a lot of us can't even get those accommodation letters from our doctors because of their own biases. That's not me making it political. That's the system, the bureaucracy being as political as it is. It has nothing to do with me. I've accepted it and I've moved on, and I am focusing on what I can fix. I could not fix it. My complaints should have raised red flags, but it did not. And the mess continues. And the people who claim that they're helping me get through this are not actually doing shit. They're pretending like they're helping. They're delaying the process more by not helping me get the paperwork done in a timely fashion. And they are also, when they are helping me, they're trying to see how much I can do instead of helping me, which causes a lot of frustration and meltdowns because they want to force me to learn to do these things on my own. You're not going to force me to learn to do these things on my own. My mom's been trying to do that my whole fucking life. And I learned them, and then you guys told me they were wrong. Because every single time we go into the office of Medi-Cal or social services, we get treated differently by every employee who's there. And when they're in a bad mood, they're fucking assholes. Especially if you look like a homeless person in fucking Lake Elsinore, California. Yeah, I'm calling you out, bitches, because you know what you did. You make us not want to ask for help. And the memory starts to get shortened and shortened. However, even when I do ask for help, from the people who are supposed to be teaching me, they read the questions off to me. Oh, that doesn't matter. It does matter. It does matter. Getting these things clear on that application does matter because I'm the one who gets drawn out in investigations. I'm the one whose benefits lapse and have to be reinstated because you didn't answer the questions correctly, because you didn't think it was important, because you guys don't even know how to do your fucking job. So really, really, really look into why people are in the situations that they are in. And if you know their character and you know how they are and you can't understand why they're still buying from places like Amazon or Walmart or Starbucks, I'm going to tell you right now, it's because getting our walkers, canes, wheelchairs from places like CVS or other places is excruciatingly expensive. And getting DME to replace these things without doctors doing their job is very difficult to do. So what are we doing? We're replacing them ourselves so that we can keep moving forward. Not because we want to be lazy at home like everybody assumes. I had all of that equipment that my mom provided for me, because in that particular instance, she did provide my walker. She did provide my wheelchair, and she technically provided my scooter, which I traded with a friend. I traded the one that I couldn't use because it was bulky for one that you could fold and take everywhere. Why? Because that's what I needed so that I could keep moving and not give up. But what did Social Security do? They kept denying my case because I didn't give up despite needing that assistance. Because without my walker, my cane, and my scooter, I can't get shit done. But medical and Medi-Cal is still denying and preventing us from being able to get these services. Delaying and delaying and delaying and delaying. Not because we don't need them, not because we're lazy, but because they make excuses, especially now they keep telling me, well, they can't be replaced because DME needs to be able to measure where it's going to be. And if you're in your car, they're not going to approve it because you'll have to get a lift and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, motherfucker, we're to that point. So if you're not fighting for me as my doctor, you're fighting against me to remain in a system that does not give a fuck about me. Because you're not fighting for me to get better or at least to have quality of life where I can manage my symptoms and still get work done. You are forcing me. You are forcing me to do it myself and spend money that I should be saving for housing and then complaining that my conditions are getting worse because I don't have housing. I have to choose between my medical equipment and housing. If you can't provide it, you don't get to have an opinion and you don't get to call me political. So fuck you. Fuck you. And if I go back to my next therapy appointment and he treats me like shit, oh my God, I'm going to report this motherfucker. But seriously, I am getting fed up with y'all making up all these fucking stories about disabled people and what we go through and who we choose to stay loyal to. But I'm sorry to say it, just because Starbucks is a bad corporation, they have been some of the only kindest people that have not been mistreating if I gotta go take a bird bath in their bathroom. So, and I know that they're not nice to all homeless people, but not all homeless people are the same. I'm sorry to say it, but in my months of being homeless, like actually straight for a year homeless, I've realized some people are so beat up by the system that they don't care anymore. So they destroy even the people who are trying to help them. And it really pisses me off that we're all held to that same standard. And people try to give us help we don't actually need instead of giving us the help that we need, like the mobility devices that I've been requesting, like the migraine treatments that I've been requesting, like trying to figure out what's going on with my eyes, which I have been requesting. And we're finally getting to answers, but I have to live in my car in order to be able to have access to these medical treatments because they did not have them at Kaiser. And they delayed and destroyed lives by delaying and denying the care because they ruined my careers and everything that I was studying because the brain just started getting worse and worse and worse and the symptoms more dangerous. I don't want to end up with staples in the back of my head again because I passed out and y'all can't give me help. It's not okay. None of what's been done to me in the past 2 years, almost 3 years, is okay. None of it is okay. And the thing is that because of all the boycotting and shit like that, and I get it because I was part of it. I am part of it. I understand why people don't frequent my Shopify website. I understand why people do not frequent certain shows. I understand, so on and so forth. I understand. I am not judging you for that. But to be judged for going to fucking Starbucks when you have no idea how mistreated I've been with this jacket, which I've had since I was a caregiver. Why? Because it's like a sleeping bag. And I often worked nights as a caregiver. So coming out at 3 a.m. or coming out at 6 a.m. from work was freezing. My hands hurt. My body hurt. So I needed something super, super warm. And since then, I've been treated as a homeless people because of the comfort clothes that I wear. Even my mom has confused me for a homeless person and said hurtful things. It's like, you didn't teach us that, Mom. You didn't teach us that. Why, when you think that we're not present, you would make those hurtful comments to anyone? No one deserves to be treated with such disrespect. And then you wonder why homeless people are disrespected. I don't wonder about the businesses that no longer let us go in there. I don't wonder. But I also don't support businesses that mistreat and discriminate, because you have no idea what that person is going through, and you have no idea what your kindness could have done for them. You have no idea how they were on the verge of becoming complete scum of society because they no longer wanted to try, or one nice gesture would have reignited that pessimistic into optimism. So keep that in mind when you're doing these boycotts. Keep that in mind when you're supporting communities, because a lot of the communities that I have tried to be a part of that claim inclusivity are just as racist as white communities. And a lot of white communities are trying to profit off of indigenous ways, despite the fact that their decisions in politics are the ones causing all of the mayhem. And don't say it doesn't exist, because it's there. I'm living it. I'm living it. And it really sucks to be that person in between, because you can't play devil's advocate. People ask me to play devil's advocate with some of these people within my communities. I cannot. I cannot. Because the moment you discriminate against someone with autism or ADHD without understanding it, or you discriminate against someone with PTSD because you didn't know they had the condition, is the moment I realized that the only reason that you move in right way is because there's a diagnosis, or because you can see their disability, or because somebody is watching, and not because you move in right way from your heart. And until we start moving in right way from our heart, we're going to have a lot of gaps in people getting their needs met. We can't dismantle. We can slowly remove all the mold from the pillars of our society and replace them with community projects that are actually supportive for change. But we can't actually dismantle that entire system without harming our people more. And the United States has already proven that they are willing to harm and kill its own people. So the best way we can do is follow the Panthers' example, even if they don't call themselves Panthers, even if they choose other founding names and whatever, establishing before mayhem, before physical violence and stuff like that, establishing community resources so that those impoverished families that depend, because the moment that they get harmed is the moment that the split happens. And they have to choose between their well-being and their children's well-being and doing the right thing. And oftentimes, parents are at capacity. And choosing to go against their children's well-being will mean that they would get their children taken away by the system that you're trying to dismantle. And children are used oftentimes, many times, to silence parents and get them to comply. And the foster care system and the legal system is used in that way more than I would like to admit. It's why a lot of us chose not to have children, so that they wouldn't suffer the same things that we suffered. My choice came early, seeing all the suffering in low income and foster care places. I made that choice early on, that I wasn't going to have children. I wasn't going to put them through this with such a corrupt system. So all of these things must be taken in mind when we are boycotting. All of it. And as community business owners, all of this needs to be taken into consideration, because essentially all those people you deem unworthy because they're houseless right now, this is my current home. All of those people that you're mistreating, like myself, are the people who are not going to go to your business. And when asked why, I won't be talking shit about the business. Oh, no, 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 no. But if somebody asks me why, I'm going to be honest about it. I'm going to be honest about it. Because my jacket should not be enough to define whether or not I'm homeless. And the way I smell shouldn't either. Even though sometimes hygiene gets really uncomfortable for some people and they won't listen, and you have to cut them out after they haven't listened, or you have to ask them to just not be around you because they won't listen or address it. But one initial hygiene interaction should not be enough for you to cancel somebody out. One physical interaction should not be enough to cancel you. One wrong thing that they said when they were still in their ignorance should not be enough for you to cancel them. It should be enough for you to listen to what else they have to say. And if all of their belief systems are contradicting your own, that's when you got to decide, do I want to be around this person or do I not? We have the choice in that. However, these businesses have no problem taking our money, just like corporations do, but then mistreating us. And that's something that small businesses have not learned because they're trying to squash entitlement. And I get it, you're trying to squash entitlement, but in the same swipe that you're trying to squash entitlement, you're also squashing compassion. So just remember that. For one, all suffer. For one thief, everyone is in disbelief. However, for one saint, everyone changes. And I'm not asking people to be saints because there's no such thing as saints. That whole thing was created to kind of force people to be in compliance. The majority of people who have deemed that I believe are proper saints didn't live a life of just good. No, no, no. They stood up for the things. They stood up for that entitlement and that privilege. They stood against it while still taking care of their own. Not just their own, but the general public. And you have to keep that in mind because we're all in the trenches right now. Everybody who is not upper middle class or upper class is in the trenches right now. And they're creating the separation and the disbelief by using all the propaganda. And now the propaganda is exactly that, you know? And unfortunately, there's not very many programs. The programs that they offer are programs that make it so that you'll be okay for a little while and then you'll be right back in that situation later on. At least for a disabled person who isn't getting their medical shit treated. That's why I keep telling them, until you treat the medical stuff, do not expect me to do what you're asking me to do. Because you're asking me to burn out before I even start. This one weekend that I worked has burned me out so bad that I can barely hold my body up. I'm leaning against everything. I'm only shifting positions because my joints are hurting from laying since last night. It's hard to breathe. Exhaustion is real. All my joints hurt right now. So, and that's just from one weekend where I wasn't, I took many breaks. I took meltdown breaks so I could go cry in the car. I took physical breaks. I took emotional breaks. I took all kinds of breaks. And it was not enough because my medical things are not being treated. And on top of it, if I would have just had my goddamn scooter, what a difference it would make. So I want you to take everything that I've said and I want you to analyze your communities and I want you to really analyze what it is that we are trying to accomplish. Because I feel like there's billions of experiments going on right now and trying to figure out which best way to help our communities. And there's one marginalized community that can only hang out with themselves. And y'all keep saying that we're antisocial and that we're not making an effort to be with the general public. But the general public discriminates very difficultly against disease, dysfunction. And that goes for spiritual communities again. Disease, dysfunction, and autoimmune disorders and shit like that. There's a huge discrimination going on. Like if you're not getting better, that must mean that you're not doing the work. You know what I mean? And it just makes us not want to be around y'all because y'all have no idea how much work we've done. and continue to do, because a lot of what you enjoy today is because of disabled people, because accommodations help everybody. And that's the problem. That because another person didn't get them and they're like, well, I was able to do it even though I wasn't given those accommodations, is a person who hates the fact that they didn't get their accommodations. So now they don't want to approve it for somebody else. They hate the fact that they were forced to push through, or they believe, because I do it too, some habits are created through that push, like proper hygiene, through that push, because it takes months to redevelop proper hygiene. I stopped having proper hygiene while living with my family and my ex because I didn't want them to come near me. It takes a while to redevelop your proper hygiene. But if you're already out of that situation that caused you to have the improper hygiene and you're still having it, then that's a choice. That's a fucking choice. And people always say, but depression, yeah, but it's a choice. The only way to move forward in depression, I know that y'all hate to hear it, but the only way to move forward is to take a shower. I'm sorry to say it. But if you really are that depressed that you can't get out of bed on a daily basis, your one task every single day should be to shower and drink some water. So you're detoxing all of those cortisol, adrenaline, and all that stuff. And if you can take detoxing showers with salts and other herbs, you should be doing that. If you can sauna, you want to get out of that depression, you need to sweat it out. And I know that a lot of people with POTS say, no, I can't because I pass out. Get one of those saunas that only goes up to your neck. Grab an ice pack, put it under a hoodie or a thing like this, and put it under, and you'll be fine. I'm not saying that you'll be able to withstand it. It takes exposure. And people are like, no, that's going to harm people. Okay. Every individual is harmed differently, and in a very inconsistent basis. If you're not willing to try other things than just medication, then you're going to be in that loop always, because medication always stops working, because you're not teaching your body how to detox it. Instead, you're teaching them how to keep the chemical within the body and then ask for a different chemical to be able to withstand holding that chemical in the body, which long-term adrenaline and cortisol, high adrenaline cortisol, causes all kind of immune dysfunction. So either way, long-term, it's not effective. So Big Pharma has it completely wrong with that. And everybody who depends on their depression medication may think that I'm saying something is wrong with you because you're taking, no. Short-term depression medication is a great way to help a person when they're in it. But long-term, lifetime prescription use is harmful to the body. All herbal and non-herbal long-term prescription use is harmful to the body. Breaks must be had. Even when we smoke herb or when we ingest it and stuff like that, breaks need to be had to see if you still need it, first and foremost, and to see if your body still requires it for functionality or quality of life, and also to see how much you still need, because now you've developed a tolerance to any of the herbs that you've taken. And I have said it a million times, and I fucking live it. That's why I'm saying that it works. And not because I haven't been diagnosed with these disorders, but because it does work. Unfortunately, the body still degenerates and degrades with time, and we haven't reached the point of reversing that for some people when it comes to bone disease and joint disease and the connective tissues and so on and so forth. We're getting there. However, there was, like they always say, what do you think is the reason that this is developing in people today and blah, 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 blah. The reason is simple. We're not getting our nutrients from our food because our vegetables and fruits are not nutrient rich. They are fertilizer rich, which makes them grow faster. But the slow process of growth is what lets them absorb the nutrients from the ground and have them within the fruit. The fast process of fast production of fertilizers, and I'm not saying Oh, we all use fertilizers. Yeah, we all use things to mineralize our soil that also act as fertilizers. However, anything that forces the plant to grow faster without having all of the mineral content that it needs, and not just the mineral content, because what's happening to plants is the same thing that's happening to us. We're trying to get all our vitamins from supplements instead of our fruits and vegetables, which is what our body is trained and recognized to do naturally, to crave through your eyeballs the colors of the foods that you need, to crave through your taste buds the minerals and things that you need instead of supplements. We're confusing the fruit and vegetables. They can't absorb it from those supplements, those liquid supplements that you are creating. And yes, we create liquid fertilizers again, but that has living microbes, living biomes and living worlds all within them that are creating their own worlds, and their poopies are the ones that are making the plant grow. They've already digested what the plant can't digest, and now the plant is absorbing what it needs. And if you get parasites in your plant, that means you need what you would consider a different parasite to combat that parasite. And I've said it in a lot of my videos, of the garden videos on my IG. So just keep that in mind, because it's lived experience. And I'm not good at scientific research anymore. I'm not good at absorbing information as well as I used to. So reading, especially with my eyesight the way it's been, is very difficult for me to do. However, I don't stop acquiring knowledge and wisdom. You can still talk to people. You can still learn from people's experiments. You can still learn that there's a million other ways to do it. But you want to know why people are developing all these chronic disorders as well? Because our ancestors have also gone through famine. So, even though we're eating and we're so overweight from overeating these processed foods, our body, our genetics are remembering famine. So they think that we're in famine. We are developing the problems that famine creates. And on top of it, when you think about it, our ancestors who come after us, their bodies will learn to recognize it before it even begins. They'll learn to reject all foods that are not nutritious because they're going to have allergic reactions to them. As we're already seeing, people are starting to have fucking allergic reactions and sensitivities to food because of it. So just keep that in mind, because we're doing it to ourselves by not letting nature do what nature does. I even had this discussion on the weekend where I was like, no, humans just want to control who goes and who doesn't. It's not like we're overpopulated or there isn't enough resources. And this person tried to tell me, well, there isn't enough resources. And I'm like, if there wasn't enough resources, we'd be bombarded with natural disasters, because the earth would be trying to the earth knows exactly how to take people out fairly. Fairly. Just takes them out. It doesn't pick and choose who gets to go, which genetic coding stays, which genetic coding goes. It doesn't pick and choose. It knows that every genetic coding has a purpose. It just takes people out. We have taken from the natural elements their job because we thought we could do it better. And then we proved we couldn't do it better. So the natural elements are no longer assisting us in a wide scale the way they used to, because we have no respect for them. And until we start having respect for nature, nature is not going to back us up the way it used to. But she's got our back. So I digress. I can go on all these tangents because they all are part of the same societal norm problem. However, keep in mind that each is boycotting in their own way. You don't get to judge who is doing more or who is doing less. You also don't get to judge after we've already tried it your way and been mistreated by the companies that you say are safe companies to go to. It's that simple. Once you've mistreated people, don't expect them to keep coming to you. And people are like, well, that's what Starbucks is doing. Okay. But they are still employing people. A lot of you motherfuckers do not want to employ disabled people. So don't be bagging on Walmart for doing the same and taking advantage of disabled people when fair wages have not been accomplished. They haven't been accomplished because y'all only want to boycott in convenience time and expect the disabled to boycott all the time. It's no longer convenient for me. It's now affecting my health because y'all don't want to get your shit together and actually boycott as a whole in a very real way. And until we have that accomplished, don't ask disabled people to be part of your boycotts. If we choose to be them, it's because our health is good enough to be able to do them. But if we choose not to do them, it's because our health is suffering. Because y'all can't get your shit together to actually work as a team and get this done in a swift manner. No, we're just spreading it out. It's just a big ass show here in the United States. So until everybody starts working together and the systems are instated, there will be no dismantling. It will happen eventually. It might happen on its own when people start to realize that no amount of abusing us is going to lead to the compliance that they're asking for. However, it may take a revolution. We don't know at this point because there's two separate timelines playing themselves out. We have the orange buffoon saying that he's doing all this stupid shit, and then we have a lot of foundations opening up programs as he's doing it. However, these programs needed to exist prior to this idiot's pointing it out. I'm just saying. You guys are reacting right now to what he's doing. You're not responding, you're reacting to what he is doing. You should have already known. We've been saying this since 2020. These things should have been already instated before this. But even as nonprofit foundations, y'all be reacting, not preparing and responding. You're reacting. And as long as we remain in reaction, it's like a narcissistic relationship with the government and with our resources and with our communities and with our towns, cities, counties, and so on and so forth. We are still in reaction mode, not responsive, even though some are getting better. I'm not bagging on y'all. I know you teaching responsibility. The response training is important. So please do not be judging people. And if somebody gives you the opportunity and actually hires you, try to do the job that they're asking, even if it goes slightly against your belief. If you don't understand, if you know this person has similar beliefs than you, if you don't understand why they do what they do, because essentially that just removes more resources from the houseless and the impoverished communities. More and more resources every single goddamn day. And yeah, I get it. These companies donate this shit so that they can claim these whatever, blah, 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 blah. However, until you supplement that, people can't say no to the big company giving them the gas card. People can't say no to the Amazon card to buy groceries. People can't say no to the fucking Walmart cards to buy medical equipment and shit like that. We can't say no to it if our communities still have not developed the networks that we need. And I see it popping up. Medical trade, like buy nothing, all these different things. I'm glad that you guys are creating these resource fairs. We need them. I think they're great. We need more of them. There's still not enough. There's still not enough for you guys to sit here on your high horse judging someone for taking a resource that has been given to them. Okay? So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. And if you are somebody who has portable bathrooms and you rent them for parties and stuff like that, when they are not in use, and if you are okay with it, maybe volunteer your equipment to go and help the homeless a day or two a week so that they can take a shower? Because yes, we have a couple vans going out there and helping people, but there is not enough. And at Mission Bay, people in the children's park, and they've done it several times to me because of my jacket, not because I'm doing anything to children or because I'm being harmful. They have ran in the bathroom before me, mind you, because I try to be respectful, and it's always elderly people. So mind you, elderly people who think they got their shit together, okay, with their grandbabies and their children, are going into bathrooms in front of homeless people, especially the disability bathroom, because that's the one I go into with my walker, and throwing so much toilet paper in the toilet that it gets clogged. And these are at children's parks like Mission Bay. I've seen it multiple times, and it gets blamed on the homeless. It was not the homeless. I have witnessed it 3 times myself, twice from the same woman and once from another. You ask, why didn't you report it? I called the San Diego line. I let one of the people know that I did see someone doing it. But because she wasn't there, I couldn't actually point her out. There's a lot of things that people who believe they are normal do so that homeless people will be blamed for those behaviors. That is another big one. That is another big one because we think that homeless people are the ones, like actual homeless people, causing a lot of the destruction. When in fact, it's sometimes not even. So if you are a houseless person, keep your friends in check. You see them doing things that fuck it up for all of us, keep them in check. And if it's a person who really doesn't, they either have serious mental health problems, call the crisis line. If they are doing things that are harming all of us, do it privately, do it anonymously, do whatever you have to do. I hate the fact that we need to be hall monitors in this, but do what we have to do. Because essentially it gets dangerous for when a person like that goes into an encampment. Everybody in the encampment gets fucked because of it, and the encampment gets destroyed. And we all know the people who are doing this. Be like, oh, but the violence, but this, but that. Okay, yes, but the violence. And I get it. If your life is in danger, don't engage, but also don't stay, because you're demonstrating that it's okay to continue to do that. And I know how hard it is to move an encampment or to encourage other people within your own encampment. But the moment that the encampment is no longer safe, it is time to either migrate, or it is time to, as a new society, because that encampment is a society within itself, to find ways to remove this person or to get them to self-regulate. Pick up your own trash. Find ways to dispose of trash that is not causing attention for your encampments. Because some of these encampments are literally of people who are just done with society and want to be left alone. And when you guys go and do that because you think that you can save them and finally give them all the resources to finally get them and force them into getting the help that they need, oftentimes you push them further out. You push them further out because the help that you think they need doesn't come to their level. It forces them to meet you at your level. You don't bring yourself down to their level and slowly accompany them as they reach your level. No, you come, you take their resources, and you tell them, you're fucked if you don't take this. And since they know they won't be, you're setting them up for failure, they don't even want to try. So you take their resources and they go somewhere further out, more dangerous. and more difficult for them to get their resources. Stop trying to force people out of their trauma. It doesn't work that way. And sometimes, yes, it forces us, but most of the time it forces us further out. You're not forcing us. It forces us to comply when you are present, when we are in the program. It doesn't force us to develop good skills because you're not doing it patiently. You're throwing people in hot water and expecting them to swim. And I'm saying it, hot water. Because you're throwing them, you're burning them, and expecting them that out of that pain from that burn to get out swimming successfully. That does not breed success. That breeds resentment and future problems. You're fixing a temporary problem with a temporary solution. And a lot of us don't want it anymore. Because I don't want to end up like those people by accepting your program and being traumatized the way you guys did with your independent living bullshit, putting me in that house with harassment, abuse, and active drug use, sewage in sinks and mold under them. That is abuse. That is systematic abuse. So if you're going to keep abusing the person, don't try to help them. Leave them be in their encampments. Don't send somebody in there to destroy their encampments and get them seen. Leave them the fuck alone. You as a society have failed them. Leave them the fuck alone. If you're going to help, meet them at that level. Help at that level and slowly bring them out of that, if it's possible. And if it is not, it is time we start to decide whether or not we want to create long-term encampments that will eventually become their own civilizations and not well-off civilizations. Because since they're having, it's like the wild, wild west. So the rules there are more violent and not necessarily contingent to healthy mental status when they leave said encampments or tiny desert civilizations where they've been, these ideas and stuff like that. Yes, good ideas come from difficult situations, but lasting structural ideas come from structured communication. And if that means you're meeting somebody who can't communicate their needs yet, you have to sit with them. If they're drug users, that's a little more difficult. And y'all keep thinking that this whole tough love with drug users works, but it doesn't work for all of them. And that's sad because unfortunately, at least in that, I don't know how to help drug users. That's a whole different mentality altogether. I won't judge on that. I'm just talking about disabled, houseless, and houseless encampments in general. Not all of them are in what you think they are in. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Because the reason we accept even to be in some of these encampment programs or parking programs and stuff like that is so that we don't go into that stigmatized other place, which is to give up and give in to drugs and just give up on life. We are choosing to meet you at the first step, but we still need help by you lowering yourself to our level, not forcing us to do and do and do when we're already burned out because we're tired. And the more you tire us out, the less we want to be part of society. And y'all be complaining about how that's affecting our society. So anyways, I'm going back and forth on all these tangents, but they're all connected to each other. Hold that information and turn it into wisdom with your own perceptions. Every perception will add to the wisdom of this knowledge. Have a beautiful day.